Kansas Attorney General Kris Kobach is pushing the Department of Justice to investigate the CCP's environmental lawfare campaign. The tactic seeks to bankroll litigation against American energy producers with the goal of weakening the domestic energy industry. We're now joined by State Attorney General Kris Kobach to learn more about this issue. Kansas Attorney General Kris Kobach, thanks so much for joining.
My pleasure.
It's great to have you with us. So you recently sent a letter to the Department of Justice urging Attorney General Pam Bondi to investigate the CCP's environmental lawfare campaign right here in the United States. If you could, unpack for us what this campaign entails and why the urgency.
Well, we've had environmental litigation for decades in the United States, but in recent years it has increased in the amount and in the types of litigation. And so when we're talking about environmental lawfare, broadly speaking, it's litigation that's against the American energy industry. The intent is to either shut it down or to impose such heavy penalties that American energy production would become uneconomical, or that consumers would be unable to bear the price if the cost of the litigation were passed on to consumers. We see this new type of litigation. We see it expanding, and there's a lot of money behind it. And it appears that some of that money, if not a very large portion of that money, is coming from China.
Attorney General, what you've just kind of outlined there seems like a very sophisticated, convoluted, complex influence campaign. And the fact that anybody, even a foreign national, can file a lawsuit, we don't know if said national is an agent of influence, if they're receiving money in China, overseas, indirectly. How do we even begin to combat this problem?
Well, it's even more difficult than what you described. You're describing a case where the named plaintiff is a foreign national. Typically, it doesn't work that way. For example, these ones I've mentioned about counties and cities suing to try to stop American energy production or to impose huge penalties on American energy production. The plaintiffs will be, as I said, these local jurisdictions. But the attorneys who in some of these cases have been laboring in these cases for 8 years and counting, and charging upwards of $1,000 an hour, they're generating legal fees in the tens of millions of dollars. And so the question, and the cities aren't paying for this, they don't have a budget for that kind of expensive lawsuit. So the question is, who's paying for it? There's no federal requirement, and most states don't have a state requirement for when a foreign entity funds litigation like this behind the scenes. They will be writing the checks to the law firms, but the plaintiff will have, the named plaintiff in the case will have no indicators of being foreign finance.
It just seems like such a uneven playing field. What it sounds like is you have on the one side, an unlimited bankroll being funded by a foreign state actor, potentially, versus an American company. Could be a small mom and pop. It could be any type of a business that is being forced into this litigation to pay on their side, which oftentimes maybe the result isn't even the desired effect that they're trying to have, but simply just to deplete resources from any group that they want to target.
Well, and typically they are taking on some small energy producers, but more often they're taking on, the engine room of American energy, so to speak, the big producers on whom we rely for so much of our fuel, for so much of our electricity. The objective of these lawsuits is clear. It's all about stopping American energy production and hobbling homegrown American energy. And, we can see, we already see fingerprints of Chinese funding in some of these cases and in some of this legislation. But the question is, how extensive is it? And we see the motivation. If China is behind as much of this as we fear, the motivation is pretty straightforward. You hobble American energy. You force Americans to depend more on energy supplies that are dependent on Chinese technologies and products like batteries, rare earth minerals, etc. And so you increase dependence on China and you weaken American energy. And both of those are the objectives of our adversaries in China.
Now, lastly, in your opinion, are we seeing enough pushback yet from the federal government on this? And what actions do you hope to see from Congress and the Trump administration in countering the CCP's malign influence on U.S. soil?
Well, there's no question that the Trump administration truly is doing everything it can to rapidly expand American energy production. But the second wave of almost any big policy push is then the litigation comes. And in this case, there's litigation by groups on the left trying to stop what President Trump is doing. There's the litigation that you and I have been talking about, which existed before Trump came in, which was litigation directed at American energy producers. And so we've got this immense battle going on in courts. And it's not just 2 or 3 cases, it's 20 or 30 cases. And these cases grind up a lot of time and money. And it appears that a significant portion of that money is coming from China. We're asking the U.S. Justice Department to open an investigation into Energy Foundation China and any related entities or unrelated entities that have Chinese backing that appear to be driving this litigation and driving this climate law.
We'll certainly be following this very closely. Love to have you back as it does develop with any updates. Kansas AG Kris Kobach, really appreciate you joining us.
My pleasure.